Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the BT5. We'll start off with a brief overview, then how to use it, then some pros and cons of the vehicle. The BT5 is the fifth variant of the BT light tank family. The main advantage of this design is that the tank crew can quickly remove the tracks and connect a chain drive to the rearmost road wheel on each side, allowing the tank to travel at extremely high speeds on roads. The BT5 variant, which featured a larger cylindrical turret housing a 45mm 20K tank gun and a coaxial 7.62 DT light machine gun, proved useful in the early stages of World War II. Introduced in Update 1.45 Steel Generals, the BT5 is versatile in terms of playstyle due to its great mobility and reasonable firepower. Given its impressive top speed, this tank is best used to capture objectives early in the game. It is recommended to travel on the road to fully utilize its speed and arrive at the objectives before the enemies. Another good strategy is to move to the border of the battlefield and engage enemies from the side. Its speed allows it to reach unexpected areas early in a battle, surprising the enemies. However, players must be careful not to expose themselves during battles, as the tank is lightly armored. Thus, any penetrating shots will almost certainly result in destruction. The BT5 has a poor survivability. Its armor is almost non-existent on all sides, making it vulnerable to autocannons and heavy machine guns like .50 caliber. Moreover, the crew is tightly packed, making it easy to knock out the BT5 with a single shot by taking out all three crewmen at once. The BT5 has a decent cannon for a light tank. Stock round has a maximum penetration of 70mm combined with the 29-gram TNT. It is almost certain that the BT5 will frontally knock out every tank it will see. Even at more than 500 meters away from the target, it still has 50mm of penetration, which is still enough to go through a lot of tanks' frontal armor. The 3-4 second reload allows the player to quickly fire more shells if the first shot didn't kill. The tank has 8 degrees of gun depression, which is enough for most terrain. Usage in battles. The BT5 is really flexible when it comes to usage, as it has great mobility and firepower, which is pretty much all you need for a good tank. Given its great 53 km/h top speed, it is good to use the BT5 as a point-capturing tank at the start of the match. It is better to travel on road to fully utilize its speed to get to the point before the enemies do. Another good tactic is to maneuver to the flank of the front line / point and attack from the side. Its speed makes it possible to go the furthest in the shortest time, surprising the enemies. Once captured, the player can either quickly set an ambush behind nearby cover, waiting for the enemy to recapture it, or just drive around the battlefield and help teammates. Its 70mm penetration and 29-gram TNT Apoplexy shell will one-shot pretty much anything around its BR. If not, the 3-second reload allows it to finish them off easily. A sudden close encounter is a hard test to the player's skills, because the BT5 isn't very good at turning, as its tracks are quite long and narrow. Its turret traverse of around 11 degrees per second is certainly not the best. Thus, those two factors can sometimes cause the death of the BT5, so the player must respond fast and accurate. Pros and cons. Pros: deadly firepower at its BR, high penetration of up to 70mm, and shells have explosive filler, which can frontally knock out most tanks. Fast tank, great acceleration and overall mobility. 3-4 second reload time is quick enough to destroy opponents it could not take out with a single shot. Adequate gun depression of 8 degrees allows it to adapt to hilly terrain well. Small and low profile allows it to easily hide behind cover or bushes. Cons was poor survivability. Turret and hull. Traverse is rather slow, meaning it may not be able to keep track of fast targets. This is also a disadvantage in a close quarters duel. This has been an overview of the BT-5. Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the Soviet and Chinese T-26. They have some slight differences, but will overall be played the same. We'll start off with a brief overview, then how to use it, then some pros and cons of the vehicle. Introduced during the closed beta test for ground forces, before update 1.4, 1 comma. The T-26 is a small vehicle with thin armor, but a heavy-hitting 45mm cannon that can devastate most enemies at its battle rating, thanks to its APHE ammunition, with enough penetration and explosive filler to one-shot most opponents. It has very poor armor like most light tanks, but it also has very poor mobility, being outmatched by tanks like the Panzer II and all BT models. It also suffers from the poor gun depression that characterizes all Soviet tanks. The armor of the T-26 is thin, thus making the vehicle's survivability low. Armor is nearly flat on all sides, so it is recommended to not expose yourself to enemy fire. The crew members are not lined up behind each other from the front, meaning that enemies using AP solid shots may have to take up to 2-3 shots before knocking out all of your crew. Beware of heavy machine guns and autocannons, since they will be able to both penetrate your armor and shred your crew/modules. While being a light tank, its mobility is one of a medium/heavy tank. The top speed is very low for a light tank, combined with the low power to weight ratio given by its weak engine. The T-26 has poor acceleration and speed on most surfaces. It can reach around 30 kilometers per hour only on hard, flat surface after a long, uninterrupted acceleration period. With even a small turn, the speed will drop significantly. The narrow tracks significantly reduce its off-road mobility in muddy, sandy or snowy maps. Despite the tracks being short and far apart, the T-26 still has slow hull traverse and often needs a forward-backward jerk to start turning properly. Reverse speed is also very poor, which cannot save you from most bad situations. The APHE round has a good amount of high explosive filler, meaning penetrating shells will do good damage, sometimes even taking out enemies with a single shot. At longer ranges, shells begin to lose penetration and accuracy. It is not made for sniping. It is recommended to play the T-26 in a support role, flanking the battlefield, and finding a good position to support your teammates from. The 45mm cannon has very good characteristics, with its rounds being able to deal a fair amount of damage to enemy vehicles from both short and long range. The fast reload allows for quick adjustment of aim between shots, meaning the T-26 can be a highly effective flanking vehicle if a good camping spot is found. The limited gun depression, however, will affect which positions are usable. Keeping back at long range is certainly an effective way to avoid taking damage. The T-26 can also be used for brawling with enemy vehicles, but it should be kept in mind that the thin armor on the T-26 will leave the vital modules of your vehicle, such as your crew, gun, and power plant, at risk of taking damage. The mobility of the T-26 is also poorer than many of its counterparts, which could potentially put it at risk in a brawling scenario. On the other hand, the T-26's short reload time will usually give it an upper hand if you can survive the first shot. Due to the top speed of the T-26 being slower than many other vehicles at its BR, it will usually arrive in the battlefield after the fighting has already begun. This can be an advantage in that you arrive after your team has already identified many targets. This also means that you will most likely not be on the front line of attack, will usually allows for you to last a bit longer than players who rush the center of the battlefield. On the other hand, it is also less likely that you will reach capture points before they are captured by your teammates, who will be faster than you. The lack of armor is really something to be kept in mind. Even some tank machine guns like the 50 caliber will be able to go through your thickest plates of armor. Because of this, it is recommended to try your best to avoid enemy vehicles getting the first shot. Driving undercover is advisable to avoid being spotted. In terms of the T-26's gun, there are 2 round options. It is also worth keeping in mind that the T-26 only has a reverse speed of 3 kilometers per hour. This is important to remember when driving into potential enemy fire. It is recommended to be aware of enemy positions and cover, as a retreat will be a lot slower than an advance. Be aware that enemy aircraft with bombs or powerful guns can easily take out the T-26. It is advised to stick to the tree line to avoid being spotted and attacked. The T-26 has little anti-aircraft capabilities. Pros: great firepower, can take out almost any tank with a single shot. Very short reload time. Fairly accurate gun at short to medium ranges. Massive ammo capacity and fast reload time, which is good for new players learning how to maneuver and fire. Cons: low survivability due to the thin, nearly unsloped armor. The crew members are packed tightly together, significantly reducing survivability. Poor overall mobility. Low top speed, very slow reverse speed, slow hold traverse, and difficulty in climbing steep slope. Average -5 degrees. Gun depression limits its potential in hilly terrains. Some ammo is stored inside turret, which tends to explode when hit. This has been an overview of the T-26. Please like and sub, and I'll see you in the next video.